Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids. Hot on the heels of ranking every single faction in terms of their must-build epics, rares, and even uncommon champions. Let's go in and let's talk about what I think are the must-build legendaries for every faction as well here in 2024. You know, things have changed. I think it's really interesting as well to look back and be like, oh, I overvalue that champion, or oh, I undervalue that champion. Based off of where the current game is right now. So let's dive in. Again, this is not a complete tier list. These are like the must builds. I will also give a few highly recommended champions. These are champions that I personally really like and think are kind of must builds as well, but it's a bit more subjective. It's not like objective, like, yeah, absolutely everyone should. Let's go into the banner lords, right? Let's look at the obvious ones first. Taras and Marishka. These are obviously must build champions. Yes, White King Narcisse has come to put a pin in their cushion. Is that the phrase? I don't know. Maybe that's the opposite. I don't know. Anyway, look, he's burst their bubble a little bit. That's probably a bit more accurate, but they are still absolutely amazing. Marishka, just insane support and an insane passive with passive revive, probably the best revive in the game, probably. And Taras, coming in, just an insane damage dealer, not only in Arena, but in Hydra, in Wavecon, just everywhere. Just everywhere. They are absurdly good. You obviously want to build them. After, I would also say Staltus is probably a must build. Honestly, not only is he a great damage dealer, if that's what you want, but he's also phenomenal for like hard mode dragon. Really, really good because he can just reflect everything back. So I actually think this is a champion you definitely want to get and build up. Just specific. I mean, his sort of whole theme is Dragon Bane, right? I think he does it well. So I think he's certainly worth building. I would. Okay, I think that's probably it. I think we switch over. I would highly recommend Rhonda as a phenomenal damage dealer for Arena. Just really high attack-based damage. I would highly recommend Rathalos Blademaster as a boss killer. He is looking to be really phenomenal. I've already done a video on him, absolutely slaying. I think it was about 500 million on hard Hydra, but of course, his damage ignores defense, so he'll do the same damage on every Hydra difficulty. He scales really well, and he's got huge potential with things like the Merciless set, reducing the cooldown of his A2. All of that is pretty nuts, so he's way up there. I'd be highly recommending both of them. I'm not sure about Aislinn. I'm still not sure about this champion. I think he's good. But I'm not sure. I'm also not sure about Quintus because I don't have Quintus yet. I've just not seen a ton of gameplay with either one of these. They're hard to recommend. I think that's sort of about it. And again, you've got other decent champions in here, like even champions I really like, such as Sigmund. I like Sigmund a lot. I think Kaja is really underrated. But I don't think they quite make my must-build category. They're just, like, real good. Let's jump on over then to the High Elves. I was saying, when I was looking at Fina, I was thinking this is a bit of a weaker faction, but there are definitely some must-build champs in here. Arbiter, obviously, I think stands out as the must-build, right? It's actually kind of amazing how well she stood the test of time, but the amount of turn meter boosting that she does, bringing increased attack, the healing, the AoE revive, even AoE buff decrease is really good. The weaken A1, she is phenomenally useful everywhere. Even if you don't use her in Arena, you can use her for lots of different places. Like, she's amazing even for Hydra. She's just great. So Arbiter, and she remains super relevant, shockingly, even in Arena, all over Live Arena, 3v3, everywhere. So yeah, I would also probably, this is crazy. This is the, is it? No, it's one of the only, the other was Great Hoof Loriaka. The only fusion I ever intentionally skipped, because at the time I was thinking, is ally attack that useful? I'm eating my words now. I actually think Lenatharil is a must-build champion. I think a full team ally attack, also with an AoE with a shield, is just super useful. This is a champion you really want on your account. It's something that's just become incredibly useful, with hard mode dungeons, with the Cursed City, with Doom Tower. Ally attack just stonks, really. It stonks, it just keeps getting better. So yeah, Lenatharil, he's phenomenal. He's phenomenal. So I'd say you'd almost definitely want to build him. For other ones, I would highly recommend Ethos. Ethos is a incredibly good farmer for campaign and minotaur with short cooldowns, quick animations, and high multipliers. He's easy to build to do well. I would actually be highly recommending Bellinor. You know, this is a recent addition for me, but I think he does really good damage as a decreased defense and weaken champion. Very high damage, and he's void, so I think that's actually quite useful. Not something I would have said a short while ago, but I do think it's true. I'd highly recommend Lysandra, particularly for like things like Dark Fae. Lots of turn meter control, I think, is really good. And then I'm pretty sure I would highly recommend Fina. Again, she's brand new. I'm more confident because I was more interested in her than Aislinn. Aislinn was like, oh yeah, it's kind of interesting. He's cool. I was more interested in Fina. I'm pretty confident that Fina is a champion you almost definitely want to build if you got her, right? If you got her, yeah, I think she's got a huge amount of potential. Really cool kit. So I won't put her as a green, as a definitely build, because I'm not that certain. But I'd be marking her pretty highly. And then, again, there's other nice champs in here, but none of them would make the cut there for me. Over in the Sacred Order. Okay, let's go straight in. Cardial. Let's circle his name as well. Cardial, definitely a must-build champion. 100%. Again, ally attack stonks. He also brings a cleanse and block revive and lots of healing. Brilliant champion. Venus. Again, the decreased defense and weaken. Really strong combo. She also brings AoE burns. She brings some poisons. Very useful champion. She's great. Definitely a must-build. I am pretty certain that Maud is going to be a must-build champion as well. Now, none of us have her. None of us has tested her. But looking at her kit, she looks to be a must-build. The only potential thing here is it's quite unlikely that you will get her in 2024. So, you know, it might be 2025 or 2026 when you get her, and she might not be a must-build then. That's sort of the issue. But looking at her right now, I would say if I got her today, I would 100% be building her. Like, that passive is just crazy good. Anyone else here that I think is must build? I don't think so. For stuff I would highly recommend, Cupidus gets a small recommend, more so with Venus, right? If you've got Venus, I think Cupidus becomes a highly recommend. I think Venus is better than Cupidus. But without Venus, not so much. So we can only give him the small recommend. Supreme Athel just got buffed, but I don't think she quite makes the list. Honestly, I don't know if anyone else makes the list. Like, I like me Pinthroy, I like me some Bivald, I like Martyr. I don't think any of them are necessarily... You know what? I'm going to say Martyr actually will make it in as a highly recommended champion. Yeah, I think Martyr will. Mostly for Cursed City, right? Having that counterattack is phenomenal, right? When it comes up for the Fire Knight bosses, you really want it. Yeah, counterattack and ally attack. They're good moves to have lots of. Barbarians, then. Good faction, actually. Very good. Okay, so Archer. Sadly, I didn't get her, and she's presumably now forevermore unobtainable. If you don't have her, you never, ever will. Almost definitely. But she's 100% a must build. The AoE Provoke and Hex, the AoE Stun, Decrease Speed. She's got so much in her kit. She is insane. There's no question. I think Armand's, the new fusion, definitely makes it in as a must build. His turn meter control is just crazy. The polymorph targetable move is crazy for arena. Great for wave control. I think he comes in. I would say Valkyrie is probably a must build too. Again, really strong counterattack, good damage, the turn meter control. And I would definitely give to Hanorak. Absolutely a must build. Honestly, I would say out of these four, Valkyrie is probably the one I'm questioning the most. But yeah, to Hanorak is god tier, especially for Hydra. Passive, like Maud's passive, is just great. Just cleansing constantly. He's got the block buffs, lots of buffs and healing for your team. For highly recommended, I'd actually highly recommend Turvold. I think Turvold's super underrated. Huge single target damage. I've really, really liked my Turvold, use him a ton. I'd probably highly recommend Ursaga, mostly for arena, for survivability. I think she's good. She's not always in the meta, but she's always good. And finally, I'm blocking him. I'd give Yakarl a shout out here. I think Yakarl is great. I would put Yakarl as highly recommended. Again, a champion you can get for free from the clan shop. I think with his AoE freeze, he's got good damage. He's got great turn meter control. Amazing on his A2s. A2 is really good. He crops up as being very useful, I would say very frequently. Very frequently. So yeah, those would be mine for the Barbarians. Over to the Orcs, relatively small faction. Any must builds in here? Yes, there are. Artak jumps out immediately. Fantastic. We got him for free. This guy is crazy good. The AoE burns and burn activation, phenomenal for Spider, for Ice Golem, all that sort of stuff. You definitely want Artak. Okay, another easy must build is Warlord, right? Lockout is so rare. He's definitely a must build champion. Anything else? Yeah, okay. Supreme Galek. Almost missed him because he's over in the corner. Grayed out there. Supreme Galek is a must build as well. AoE burns with decreased speed and block buffs, and then burn explosion. He's crazy good for Hydra. So good. I think that's it then for the must builds. You would definitely build all three of those. I would highly recommend, surprise, surprise, Kreela, the ally attack champ, comes in. I'd also highly recommend Varl. I think Varl is extraordinarily underrated, but he's an amazing damage dealer that brings weaken and decrease attack AoE and hits really hard and scales his damage up. I think he's really good. Then I'd probably recommend Raka. Again, I've not seen too much about Raka. I think she'd come in as fairly recommended. Revivers and cleansers sort of always have good value as well. But I think that would be it. And again, there's not like I like Tila. Angar, since his buff, he's decent, you know. But those would be the ones that stand out for me. We got to be fairly ruthless here. Ogryn, fairly small faction. Okay, straight away, Grazor is a must build. This guy is nuts. AoE enemy max HP, extending buffs, AoE provoke, AoE attacks on everything. He's just a god tier champion. So strong. The best increase resist champ in the game, I think. Well, maybe Crixia is. Yeah, probably Crixia is the best. He's probably second best now. I can't remember if there's been any new mythicals that do increase resist, actually. But yeah, Grazor is nuts. After that, it's kind of slim pickings. I think we're ditching the green. I'd say Korrigar probably is really worth considering as a phenomenal team protector and healer. I think that's probably it in terms of the must builds. I think Bellatar is nice. I think Shamrock is nice for some speed control, but like honestly, it's a pretty weak faction, right? Grazor is kind of hard carrying this one. There's decent chaps. Like they're decent, but there's very few that wow me. Lizardmen, another small faction. Okay, but straight away, it's immediately better. So Furion, amazing burner. Krisk, what needs to be said? Krisk is just insanely good, particularly for Hydra. Protecting your team, bringing so many buffs and debuffs, mischief tanking. Ramantu, I think definitely is a must build. I would say more so looking forward as well. Like the more they nerf Polymorph, the stronger Ramantu becomes. You definitely want to have him good to go. Necmo Thar, another must build. Hydra God, turn meter control God. Just in general, I'd say Python also is probably a must build for nearly everyone. An amazing tanky champion, healing you up, keeping your team alive, revive if you need. He's fantastic. So, wow, that's a lot of must builds. I don't think the others are must builds. I would probably quite recommend. I think Krokmar's pretty good. I'd recommend Krokmar. I've seen some fun stuff with him. And probably Fushan. I've seen Fushan crop up a lot as, you know, a damage dealer with a great speed aura, AoE stuns, good damage. I think he's pretty solid. And then the rest are more hit or miss, honestly. But that's a lot. That's a lot of good legendaries in the lizards. A lot. And then finally, we've got the Skinwalkers. I did this in a weird order. We did Ogryn, Lizards, we did Orcs first. We did this in a weird order. I don't know what happened. We went wrong. But hey, we got through them all. We've done them all. At least we will once we've done this. Must build. I say Sun Wukong. Recent free login legendary. He's a must build. Phenomenal damage dealer. Block buff champion. Stealing buffs. Great. Really strong. You know what? We don't have him yet, but I'm almost certain Marius is going to be a must build champion. His kit is just stacked. Stacked. He's crazy. Let's take a little look at Marius coming up. Like he's coming in, he's got an anti-mythical, does he? Yeah, he's got an anti-mythical passive. Whenever an enemy changes form or tries to decrease his turn meter, he'll do like an AoE attempt at enfeeble. That's so right. Increase accuracy defense. Done with extra turn. Triple enemy max HP. Now the multiplier in this looks to be quite low, but still, I think you could probably crank this to hit really hard. I think he's gonna be nuts. He's a must build. Anyone else in here that's a must build? Probably. Oh wow, there's a lot here I'd highly recommend. Are they must builds? Are they must builds? Yes, Razzlevarg is a must build. Must build him. He's so strong. Honestly, I underrated him when he first came out. I think almost everybody underrated him when he first came out. it was not clear just how valuable a damage dealer with short cooldown AoE attacks who scales off of speed is. He doesn't hit the hardest on every attack, but he goes so gosh darn fast that his damage output over time is just insanely good. He is amazing. I use him all the time. He's so good. He's so good. I'm going to go into highly recommend. I would highly recommend Leorius. I don't know if he's a must build, but I think Leo is really good, right? Great damage dealer, keeps himself alive. He might be must build territory. I don't have him, so some of my bias might be coming through. I would highly recommend Ragash. In fact, you know what? I actually would. I'd say Ragash is a must build, and so is Leorius. Leorius is so fantastic, keeping himself alive with lots of AoEs. I think Ragash is an absolutely top tier defensive nuker with crowd control as well. I think they're super useful in multiple areas. They are great. Then I would also say, you know what, Nishak is also a must build, specifically really for Bommel and just lots of bosses. He's very good. He's can be good for Arena as well. And then switching over to the highly recommend, I would actually highly recommend Gwendolyn. I think she's been actually pretty darn good with her multi-hits and her extra turns. She's been nice. Snick Track might make it. Uko, I'd highly recommend as well. He's a nifty champion. Definitely not essential. He's not even close to being a must build for me. He's not green. But I definitely would recommend him. I think he's a nice champion to have, a good one to have, worth building for sure. And I'd say probably Tunisia is probably worth building as well, right? For the burns, the stun, I think that's going to be useful in a lot of areas. And, we should also mention Longbeard. Let's not forget, I always forget about Longbeard. Let's not forget Longbeard with the ally attack. So lots of good champions there. So there you go, guys. What do you think? This is part 1. We'll cover, obviously, in an upcoming video, part 2. I was pretty generous with some factions and pretty ruthless with some others. But what do you think? I think there's definitely themes coming through. And yeah, God, that faction's actually Sacred Order. I'm shocked that I didn't pick more there. Yeah, what do you think about this? Do you agree? Do you agree with my rankings? Are any of your favorite champions that I left out that you think absolutely are must builds? Like, do you love Baron? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. I'm curious what you think. Are there any champions I think are must builds that you're like, oh, I just don't see where they'd be useful for my account at all? Let me know. I'll see you then for part 2, where we look at the other 7 factions. See you all then. Goodbye.